Tasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishnaprishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Please accept my obeisances, my dear Vaishnavis, with whose association I've been having a saving grace phase. Mancha kalpataru bhischa kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So we stopped at the celestials being alarmed, seeing Sati approach the celebration. And they're like, oh my Krishna, look who's here. And they looked at one another. What should they do now? If they acknowledged her, Daksha would surely become displeased. They all turned their backs on her. Oh my God. Sati walked from one celestial to another, asking for her father. They pointedly looked away and did not reply. Meanwhile, Prasuti and her daughters, who were greeting the women, noticed the hush which had overcome the gathering. They pushed through the crowd to see what had happened. As soon as they saw Sati, they ran to embrace her. My dear daughter, how happy I am to see you. Beloved sister, how we have missed you. Come, dear one, said her mother Prasuti. Your father will be so happy to see you. They led her to a seat and offered her gifts. Prasuti sent another daughter to inform Daksha. Sati watched his face as he heard of her arrival. He briefly cast a glance in her direction and then, scowling, turned away. Prasuti tried to comfort Sati. He's preoccupied with making arrangements for the sacrifice. Come and eat something. I'm sure your father will speak to you soon. Sati's heart pounded and tears fell from her eyes. She could not reply, nor did she accept the refreshments and gifts her mother and sisters offered her. She could hear the priests chanting mantras to all the principal guardians of the universe as they poured oblation of ghee into the fire. Shiva's name alone was not chanted, despite his position as the primary god. Sati's anger rose. Shiva had been right. Not only was her father shunning her exalted husband, but also he also snubbed her. Seeing her distress, the yakshas and ghosts who accompanied her became agitated. Order us and we shall kill Daksha, mistress. Okay, we'll pause there. This is excruciatingly painful. This is the problem also with social acceptances and social life, which is not centered on Krishna, because then everything becomes about the so-called social standards. Oh, don't talk to that person, because if you talk to that person, the other person will feel bad. And if you know, the whole political drama of human life, human society. So if you wondered ever, oh, why am I treated not so nicely in the temple or among the devotees? Well, here you go. It's since time immemorial. Even the celestials, right? They got like everything you can imagine. And still, because of the fear or of social, oh, if I talk, then what if somebody will tell Daksha? What if Daksha sees me talking? And then what if I get... So this fear exists. In fact, that's one of the things that inspires me, or whatever is the opposite of inspire, inspires me. What's the opposite of inspire? Discourages me, yeah. Discourages me about heavenly planets and all that, although it sounds cool, is the fact that even in heavenly planets, there's fear, shoka, bhaya, moha. There is fear, there is illusion, there is jealousy, there is envy. because one celestial has one apsara who's very beautiful and a bigger airplane and the other doesn't. So they actually look at each other and actually feel envious and jealous and fearful of their position. So there's nothing so cool about celestial lifestyle. It's just basically a prison house, which is of AC class with TV in it, but it's still a prison house. When I was very young, I used to be a little bit attracted to descriptions of heavenly planets and like that. And then as I grew up, etc., and I studied more and more scriptures, and I understood this point, because this is one of the things I feel frustrated being a human, is this jealousy and envy and fear and insecurity, right? And one of the things I want to like grow out of and become sadhu, which, when you become a sadhu, we're not overcome by these. Whereas even if you become a celestial, you may have better enjoyments, luxury, but you don't have the virtue of being non-envious. That only is available with becoming a devotee. There's a verse, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakale Ashanta, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atha Eva Shanta. So even the Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami, all kinds of people who perform mystic things and jnanis, super knowledgeable, etc., etc., they're always ashanta. They're always like fearful and insecure. I mean, we can also include devatas and heavenly beings in this category. They have mystic powers, etc. They have amazing enjoying ability and resources to enjoy. But still, if they can't even respect sati, if they can't even like get over their fear and inferiority or fear of being inferior, they don't even greet sati. What's the point of being a celestial, right? It's better to be a beggar in the street and be a devotee, because nishkama, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama, Taiva Shanta. There's peace in our mind. We don't have to go and beg and bow down and crawl in front of anybody. There's actually one bhajan. It says, ನಾಯಿ ಕುನ್ನಿಗಳಂತೆ ಪರರ ಪೀಡಿಸುತ್ತ ಕಾಯಲಾರೆನು ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕಂಡವರ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ನಾಯಿ ಕುನ್ನಿಗಳಂತೆ ಪರರ ಪೀಡಿಸುತ್ತ. So I don't want to wait around, my dear Krishna, in this material world, waiting at the doors of people like dogs and puppies, for a little bit of a validation or a little bit of acceptance. Sometimes it's like that, right? See, in this case is like that a little bit, how the demigods are all afraid and they're like so giving priority to Daksha, that Daksha is their master, right? They're all like the servants and Daksha is the master. So they're like, oh, no, we can't do anything that will displease Daksha, right? Krishna is not in the center anymore. So all these things are important for us to study so that we don't become entitled rascals in this world. And because even being devotee, we may wear kantivala and tilak and we say, I'm devotee of Krishna. But deep inside, all these anarthas have to be noticed and cleared out. Look and see, what is my priority? Am I pleasing Krishna, or am I just trying to get social acceptance? These are important things. And also to understand that if you're ever mistreated or neglected or chastised or all those things, right? We shouldn't feel like, oh, this is so bad, and we shouldn't act entitled. I should remember that this is since time immemorial, this kind of politics are there, and it will be as long as we have this material body. Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? And then one of you can continue reading.
I have a very strange question, actually, especially when you said that we should not feel like, as devotees, entitled. I was just thinking, of course, it's natural for Sati to feel very, what do you say, dejected, just seeing the way her father just greeted, the way he treated Lord Shiva, and just coming to terms with the fact that her husband had actually correctly told her this is what's going to happen, the future event. So yet, like, I'm thinking of the other, the other way, just like applying that entitled part to her. Why she could have also just thought maybe he's busy like that, right? Why she also felt that I should have been treated. It's one sense I understand. It's natural for a daughter, especially she's the youngest, she's the favorite according to how she states. But then she could have also just let go of that, right? Like, what do you say? Not acting entitled, like how you said, right? Why that? Why
she's not acting entitled. Imagine you walk into your New Jersey temple and everybody acts as if you're not even looking at them. And then imagine your own Guru Maharaj, or I mean, this is a spiritual example here about temple and devotees, but still, imagine like people who greet you every day act like they don't even know you. You don't feel entitled, but you feel that something is wrong here. What's going on? And then, I'm just saying, okay, imagine you walk into the temple and then they're all singing Radhe, Sham and everything, and they forget to glorify Prabhupada. They didn't even imagine, they didn't even say Jai Prabhupada, they didn't sing Namam Vishnu Padaya. You go there, you enter the Mangalarti or something, they're singing all kinds of bhajans of Radha Krishna and everybody. And then you don't even see them singing, like say, either they miss out Chaitanya or they miss out Prabhupada. You're going to think there's something wrong in this assembly, right? And you're going to see, oh my God, it looks like there's a deviation in this assembly. And then you see that everybody else is very much in compliance. And then everybody else is also singing Nitai Gaur, Radhesham, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. They're doing everything except singing Lord Chaitanya's name and except singing Prabhupada's name. Like that, she's attending the assembly where there is a procedure, right? There's a way to please Krishna, and Shiva is the major part of the process. And then they're missing that out. So she's not acting entitled at all. She's actually looking at the situation and saying there's something wrong here. There's something going really wrong here. And then she notices that the wrong is not that Daksha is forgetful. She knows he doesn't have dementia. She knows very well that Daksha is capable of remembering. And then it dawns, sometimes it dawns upon us, right? What was I thinking? Why didn't I not see this coming? Sometimes we think like that. So she realizes immediately, because Shiva had told her, she immediately realizes that this whole assembly is off. This is off. People are like, everybody's going along, but there is completely imagine, just I'm saying, imagine they don't take Lord Chaitanya's name. You go there and you sit there for, 1 hour, 2 hours, and they're doing everything else except sing Mahaprabhu's glories, or even notice that Mahaprabhu, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, they don't sing, and they directly sing Hare Krishna. And then they don't even acknowledge Prabhupada. I'm just saying, see the process. Don't just see the emotions. It's not like she didn't, in fact, it's the opposite. She didn't feel entitled at all when people neglected her. She's like, okay, whatever. But then she looks at the yagya being performed and they don't even take Mahadev's name. And it's not at all because it's her husband. Please remember that. It's not. It has nothing to do with that. She's actually thinking more in terms of the procedures and like I'm saying, like parampara. Somebody starts giving class and they don't even mention their guru or Prabhupada or Chaitanya, they're just directly talking about Rasa Leela and whatever, like, hey, come on, what are you doing? So you may not want to sit in that assembly. It's not at all about being entitled. It's about trying to do the right thing. Am I clear? Is that doesn't make sense? Do you agree?
Yeah, that's perfect. I like the way you said, especially in the end, how she was just thinking about the procedure, and especially when you said about they're not saying Jai Prabhupada, that just struck me the most. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that struck me the most. Yeah, perfect.
How the kirtan will be complete without Prabhupada? How can a puja be complete without taking the name of your guru? It can't. But still, there is an effort going on in that way, and Sati is witnessing that. As I said, it's not only excruciatingly painful because of her personal negligence of her of her presence. It's more about the procedure itself, which is like, hey, what assembly am I sitting in? Or in standing, whatever. Okay, would you like to continue reading, Taruni Radha?
On this page?
Yeah.
Satish, okay, 1 second. Sati shook her head. Then maybe we can just teach him a lesson by breaking his bones. I'm shocked. I'm not able to read, sorry. There is to be no violence, said Sati. So who was that? It was in her own mind?
No. It's the dutas. The
Dutas are saying.
the what do you call them? Yakshas and the ghosts who accompanied her, the Mahadev's followers, her
Got it, got it.
protectors. Yeah.
Her bosom heaving, she pulled away from her mother and sisters. She glared at her father. You are unnecessarily proud of your useless sacrifice. There is no need to undergo all this trouble to secure increased wealth, power, and enjoyment. Material happiness comes of its own accord, as does material suffering. You do not have the good sense to understand that the real purpose of sacrifice is to satisfy Vishnu. If you have any regard for Vishnu, you would not dare disregard his devotees. Shiva is a qualitative incarnation of Vishnu who shares the Lord's exalted qualities. No living being can match him. He is equally disposed to everyone. He makes no distinction between friends and enemies. Who but my foolish father could envy such a glorious personality? Daksha glowered at his daughter, who stood just a few feet from him, her fists on her waist. Great souls like Shiva see only the best in others, magnifying a mere trace of goodness. You, on the other hand, despite being supposedly learned, find only faults even in such a person. I should not be surprised. What else can I expect from a materialist who foolishly identifies with his temporary material body? Although the dust of the feet of great personalities benefits everyone, it destroys envious people like you. This is not because they take your offense seriously, but because Vishnu himself will personally cut down your pride. This will force some sense into your head. That's just too powerful, right?
Yeah, let's pause there. That's the point. That's also answer to your question. It's not that they feel entitled or they take their offenses seriously, but the fact that, Krishna cannot accept such offering. It's like, imagine, like my husband often tells me, don't let people treat you badly because it's bad for them. There's that, assertiveness, because it's like one thing is to say, oh, they're mistreating me, and then we sit there just quiet, etc. But sometimes we need to do something so that that doesn't happen, not because we want to be respected, but humility sometimes means to go and tell them, hey, you shouldn't treat me this way, it's not good for you. It takes courage and detachment to do that, because we usually feel, oh, if I go and tell, I don't know what they'll think that I'm entitled. So sometimes becoming attached that, oh, people should not think I'm entitled, is also not very humble. Something I had to learn the hard way at this point.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, please.
Mataji, I wanted to ask, like how to decide like when we should go and tell, if sometimes it may be coming from the seniors. Like,
Go means?
Like
Please.
when we should we say every time like we feel like someone is and like someone is saying something wrong to us?
Okay. Very good question. In fact, that's like a whole class. Yesterday, if my internet was there, I wanted to actually speak about that topic. See, again, Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun of dealing with this. And also walking away is not always necessarily physically walking away. It's about you walking away from clinging to that point and identifying with that. So tamas guna, behavior would be to lament about it and to resent about it. But internally, we are like, not able to let go. And externally, we're not saying anything. We're just there, sucking it up and just looking like, oh, I'm okay. Yeah, you're senior. I have to keep quiet. Something like these demigods are doing right now, right? But internally, we are burning and there's resentment, right? So we have to look and see if there is resentment. Obviously, it's like an indication in, especially for women. I mean, everybody is, but women more. We have, our bodies are very sensitive. When we feel a bad emotion, we are in a place and it doesn't feel right, the body feels it. Body is like immediately indicating, like, this is not the right place for you, etc. So if possible, you can always not go to that assembly if you know it, or you can avoid it, go somewhere else, go to the temple, take a parikrama, go if you go with a friend and study Bhagavatam, there's so many options. If you can't physically leave, like you said, there may be some mentors or something, and they may be talking nonsense sometimes, etc. You can shut down internally. And for example, I do that all the time. Internally, I just like don't identify, like I don't want to form resentment because I don't want to address, or like I don't have the, what do you say, circle of influence. It's not my circle of influence. It's a circle of concern, but it's not a circle of influence. Are you aware of that? Let me show you what that is. Let me use the board here to, there's a board. How do you use that board? I think it comes in, there is a whiteboard that I can write and show you. Anyway, I'll explain very shortly. There's a circle of concern, means things that concerns you, why people are doing like this should not be done. You're concerned about these topics. Why people kill cows, why people do this, why devotees don't do A, B, and C. Circle of concern, you're concerned. And then there is something called circle of influence. Circle of concern is very huge, okay? We all have a huge circle of concern. But then there is a circle of influence. Circle of influence is often very small area where you can really influence something, you can change something, something is in your power control. So we may be in situations where it's a circle of concern many, many times, but we may not be in the circle of influence. Circle of influence is where you can speak up, when you can influence the assembly. Okay, so we need to recognize the difference in the assembly, which assembly is circle of influence and which is just a circle of concern. And then we learn to make peace. In some situations, we just, okay, this is disturbing and I don't agree, but there's nothing I can do because this is not my circle of influence. Then you sit down, and if you're a writer or something, I was going through a circle of concern for many, many years long ago. And then I would journal it, write. And I took all that writing and I turned that into a book. It's about astrology. It's called How to Mess Up Your Life with Astrology, because I saw that so many people had wrong ideas about astrology. In the moment, I said nothing because it was not my circle of influence. Just had to like watch them talk nonsense. But then I took notes and at one point I released this book. And it became very underground classic, and many ISKCON gurus purchased books later for their disciples and everything. So the point is, we have to see which is a circle of concern and which is a circle of influence. And then in some situations, we just have to keep quiet. And sometimes we can address the issue if somebody is a mentor that you trust, but don't address in public. Don't correct your seniors or superiors in public. But you can always go and express, hey, I felt like this, when you did this, you felt like, I felt like this. I mean, it may work, it may not work. I don't know the situations, right? We don't know. Every situation is different. Even if it's a circle of influence, it can be difficult to do that. Recently, I had a student that I had to correct, but it was very difficult for me because I was too busy just consoling the person that I couldn't correct the person. So it's not easy to either preach or correct or even walk away. It's not easy, but it's a practice. We can learn sometime, and we need to be lazy and lame and not worry about things that has nothing to do with us. But if there is something you feel to do, there's an urge in the body, in the mind, and you pray. You write down your journals and whatever, and you pray, Krishna, I'm really disturbed about this thing that's going on in the temple, And they're just putting Christmas clothes on Krishna every day, but you have no power to stop it, let's say. They're putting they're dressing Krishna like Santa Claus, what to do, Krishna, I really don't like it. Maybe you don't have the power to change it. And then we pray, right? And then we see if you can make that your circle of influence. And please choose your battles carefully. See, we all have a limited capacity mentally, emotionally. So we need to see what is your real battle. Where do you want to fight? Because if you fight the wrong battles, then you won't have energy to fight the right battles. So you need to pick and choose what you really want to fight. sometimes really the best thing is to just walk away eventually, slowly, from toxic relationships or unhealthy people who are unhealthy and they're trying to lead us. Or slowly we pray to Krishna, we gain strength, we do things to give us the strength in our army, so to speak, so that army remains strong in the time of battle, like that. But again, tamas guna means suppression internally and externally, keeping quiet. Rajas guna means not thinking properly, without proper skill, without understanding circle of concern and circle of influence, just going and picking any battle that you feel inspired in the moment, and then feeling drained and feeling insulted, feeling frustrated. Passion always leads to misery. We may start out feeling, yeah, this is my thing in a crusade or something. But in Sattva Guna, we use knowledge and we look at the situation objectively. We take everything into consideration and we say, okay, who is this person? Are they my senior? Is it my circle of influence? In this circle of concern, do I want to keep this as my concern? Or do I have other things like chanting good rounds and reading Bhagavatam and associating with nice devotees? Do I have to still do those things? Am I just jumping into fixing the world when my own house is broken? No, I'm just saying, like, these are the things that I do before I jump into any battle. I ask myself, is there something you need to fix at home before you jump on this thing that is concerning you? Of course, there's always. Okay, does it help, Snehavati?
Yes, Mataji, yes. Thanks.
Anybody else wants to add anything else to her question? Is very relevant. How do we know when to walk away and how do we know when to? I'm thinking how great devotees like Prithu Maharaj, Parikshit, they were all, and also Prahlad Maharaj, etc., etc. They didn't act in passion at all. They're just like, okay, this is wrong. What you're doing is absolutely wrong. And they didn't act in passion. They didn't act in ignorance. They didn't express. Even Pandavas, right? They didn't. I mean, Pandavas had so much passion. Imagine controlling Bhima. When that Ashwatthama's Brahmastra came at them, Bhima was like, I'm not going to bow down. I'm going to, hey, why should I bow down? This is Ashwatthama's weapon. And then Krishna himself was there and he said, for the respect of Brahmastra, you bow down. And then Krishna convinced Bhima. So even Bhima was tamed into being sattvic. So sometimes, if you think that, oh, why this mentor is saying like that, or why this senior devotee is like that, remember Bhima, bowing down in front of Brahmastra. It doesn't make, Krishna explained to him, it doesn't make you inferior or anything. It makes you superior because you're respecting Brahmastra. So it was a very nice explanation. So sometimes keeping quiet is not a weakness. Keeping quiet means internally you're very strong. Your Atma Bala, Mano Bala is very strong. Your ability to stay equipoised is very strong. Only such people can actually really keep quiet without resentment in the heart. So it's a practice. I'm thinking of my grandfather. He was like that. He had a similar kind of personality, like Radhanath Swami, very quiet and very slow and very introverted, but he will not feel resentful, but he'll be very tolerant. But we can't imitate them. Sometimes we are not that kind of persons. We are agitated by things around us, but then we have to go through the process of, is it my circle of influence? What do I need to really do? Do I have the strength to fight this thing? Should I take it up? Are there other things I need to mind my own business on? Like that. I'm thinking of different examples in the scriptures about this style of minding your own business. Ambrish Maharaj, he didn't run after Durvasa and say, I'll teach you a lesson. He didn't. He was minding his own business. Also in Chaitanya Leela, you can find many examples. Okay, anybody else likes to continue? It became a lot of discussion today, sorry. But this is important for us to see that please don't feel bad when you're not treated well or when you see things going off course. Remember that this has been since time immemorial, and our duty is to strengthen ourselves, our mental strength, our emotional stability, our sadhana, right association. We need to work on what is in our circle of influence. And then the more you work on the circle of influence and build strength, the more you will be able to resist the fights of other. Sorry, when things don't go well, the same strength will come to aid. But if you're weak and you go after something that is not your circle of influence, then we can become we get burnt.
Then you start thinking, why Krishna is allowing this to me like that? All those things comes to mind.
Krishna only says, okay, you want to do this, go ahead, do it. He just gives us free will. But then if we decide to use our free will about circle of concern, but not use our intelligence to see is not my circle of influence, then we can get burnt.
Yes.
That's why we should pray. Before doing anything, we should pray to Krishna. So, and he can stop it. No, let Krishna in. Even the Pandavas, they found it difficult to let Krishna in. When they were playing the gambling match in the 11th canto, when the conversation with Uddhava it comes, they were not able to let him in. They didn't even call him into the place. Only Draupadi called, but they didn't call. They were playing gambling match, thinking this time will be better. And he was gambling away Bhima and then Arjuna, and then still they didn't call Krishna. Even Arjuna and Bhima didn't call Krishna. And Krishna says that to Uddhava, they didn't call me. Why am I supposed to go? Yeah. Rajeshwari Radhika Mataji is saying, you're speaking about Radhanath Maharaj, I guess. Yeah, there is that internal Shakti there, He'll not, even I have seen him in GBC meetings also, because I was part of Sabha. He will not speak unless asked, and unless, he will just keep quiet. And not everybody is like that. Some people do speak up. Like my Jayapatak Maharaj, he'll speak up. He won't keep quiet. That his nature is like, as soon as it's in his circle of concern, he'll try to make it circle of influence if he believes in it. Of course, his Shakti is much more than ours. We have limited capacity and we need to invest carefully. But Japatak Maharaj is very active in the meetings. He's always commenting and always saying, why can't we do it like this? Why can't we have a special seat for women also? Why in Bhagavatam class, men have to be in the front and women in the back? And he'll speak up. He'll do that. But Radhanath Maharaj will be like quiet and internalized, and then he'll create his own community where he'll establish the rules, and that community will be very influential. So he has his own way to do things. It may take a long time, but he has his way. And I remember one time, one point, one thing. See, in these GBC meetings, it's quite difficult. Everybody has their own opinion. If you're looking at this Daksha assembly, you imagine GBC assembly is also like that, similar difference of opinion and this and that and politics. Everything is normal there. So there was one point about this group, like Bhakti Vriksha and all. So first time Japatak Maharaj brought it to the GBC, they rejected. Said no. And he didn't give up. Next year, he brought that same thing again and he presented, we need groups. We can't only make people dependent on the temple. This was many years ago. Back then, there was no congregation and all. Everything was based on you are a full-time devotee. If you're a congregation, you're low class. There was that kind of mood back then. And Japatak Maharaj was fighting against it. And his fighting is relentless, don't give up, but kind and compassionate. And he came back second year. Second year also the GBC rejected. No, we have to have temple-based programs. We can't let this. And he got rejected. Like that, only the third or the fourth time, people thought, oh my God, this Japatak Swami is not going to give up. And then they finally approved this Bhakti Vriksha programs and for congregational development. And now you see, because of that, now there is more acceptance of the congregation and all that, because back in the 80s and all, if you were living in the home like that, you were very low class. And similar thing Radhanath Maharaj also did in his own way. When he went to Chaupati also, the Grihasthas were attacking the Brahmacharis, and the Brahmacharis would look at Grihasthas and say, you are low class. And Maharaj, like in his own sweet way, he influenced that congregation, which became exemplary for the whole world. But the secret is they understood what is their circle of concern and circle of influence, and they built a bridge between the two. very effectively. So we can see many examples. Chowpatty back then, there were rats living in the place, and there was so much, they would call each other names and all, grihasthas and brahmacharis. That was the situation. There's a whole history behind that, So if we look at the leaders who utilize their circle of influence to make a difference, wow, what would we do without them? Like that. But what I'm also pointing out is the personality types. Radhanath Swami is a different personality type. Tak Swami is a different personality type. But they both do their own way of building a bridge between the circle of concern and circle of influence. And then they work around that. So we need to learn from that as well, to build a bridge between our circle of concern and circle of influence, and to see what's realistic. Yeah. Any other comments or questions or realizations?
I was also thinking it's like excellent, like how this example of Maharajas, how they took the circle of influence and how they did it, how they understood the difference and implemented it. It's like really beautiful. But in a local, at a very low level like us, when we see some injustice or something, something happening in front of us, if you don't, it depends, of course, situation to situation. But then when you're seeing somebody getting really, really badly thrashed or something, right? You can't just be part of it and just watch, right? There's something you need to do, right? You just can't allow that kind of behavior to just continue for another person, right? We have to stand up.
Well, the first thing we need to do is call Krishna in, which Pandava missed. And the whole 11th canto, the discussion with Uddhava, is Krishna saying, I was waiting at the door that they'll call me. There was obviously injustice going on, right? One after another, Yudhishthir was losing his wealth, he was losing his gold coins, he was losing his horses, he was losing his cavalry, he was losing his army, he was losing the whole entire kingdom. And still he was not calling Krishna. He still kept thinking, no, I can fix this. I'll fight. I will play with dharmic moves and I will defeat Duryodhan. You can't do that with people who are like that. And then he gambled away Bhima. And then he gambled away Arjuna. All in the mood that I have to do something about this. I can't just keep quiet. I have to act according to dharma. But then what is dharma for a devotee if you don't let Krishna in? That will be the gamble match. So the point is, the main thing is we have to do something. The first thing we have to do is call Krishna in. Ask Krishna, Krishna, I'm feeling concerned about this. Please be with me. Please come. Please save me. And yeah, to not act according to the modes of nature, but to actually call Krishna in, Krishna Graha. Otherwise, our Jupiter and our Mercury and our Mars and our Saturn will only take over as long as we don't call Krishna in. So Krishna is waiting at the door. Remember, always remember, whether it's a small thing or a big thing, and believe that Krishna can arrange. But like I said about speeds, some leaders are very they are like long-term thinkers. They wait until things manifest. Like that. So sometimes we need to give it the space for Krishna to do his magic. But all I'm saying is very powerful to call Krishna in. It's not just something. I'm not just saying go chant in a sense of, oh, I'm just going to go and chant, let them do whatever, all injustice is happening, I don't care. Not in that way. But chant, crying out to Krishna, Krishna, I really don't want this situation to be, I really feel powerless in this situation. I have no strength to help, but please come help. You think he won't? He could provide unlimited sari to Draupadi, even though he was not even there. He was waiting that Krishna was waiting that Draupadi will also call, and she did call. And then he immediately came. And Uddhava asks, why you didn't go and help the Pandavas? Why you didn't make the dice fall roll according to their will? According to what will make them win? Why you didn't go and stop them from playing the game? And Krishna says, because, good friend. He says, you are supposed to be Apat Bandhava. You even help people who are No, I have nobody. And the Pandavas are supposed to be your friend. What kind of a friend are you? Uddhava asks. And Krishna says, yeah, but I was waiting at the door that they'll call me for help, but they didn't call me. They were trying to fix the situation on their own. And even when Bhima and Arjuna were lost, they were standing there, and instead of calling me, they were actually blaming Duryodhana and blaming Bhishma, and they were just using their mind and their thoughts and talks about others. They were not calling me still. I was waiting at the door that they will call me. And then Uddhava is like, why you didn't go and stop? He said, I can't just go and stop unless I'm allowed to. There has to be a little bit of free will to say, Krishna, may your will, not mine, be done. Otherwise, our own will has brought us lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of entanglement. This one lifetime, we can just live saying, Krishna, your will, not mine, be done. May your will prevail. Let me not act according to my mind's modes and please, Krishna, take over, take over this chariot of my life. That's what Arjuna did, right? And Pandavas, they couldn't do, and in fact, they lost everything because they couldn't let Krishna in. Because every time they let him in the forest, everywhere, Krishna is always protecting them. But in this dice game, they didn't let Krishna in. And there's a whole Bhagavatam, should read that. It's a beautiful chapter, the conversation between Uddhava and Krishna. And Uddhava is a little bit upset with Krishna. Why you let them lose? Why you did like that? So sometime also Snehavati was saying, we mess up, we don't call Krishna in, right? And then we say, oh, Krishna allowed this to happen. Come on, we didn't even let Krishna in. Actually, this is a huge topic for us, Krishna's will, to align to Krishna's will, because self-will only gets us into trouble. I think like this, I feel like this, and then it takes us into who knows which direction, mostly direction of passion. But Krishna's will, it takes some time for us to figure out, 13 years for Pandavas to go on the exile. Krishna has a plan, we just need to trust. Gosh,
and sometimes, when some devotees think that I know Krishna as well in this particular situation, or like even if we think like that, right? I know what is Krishna's will. That's also dangerous, right? Because we can only depend. We can't know what it is, right? We can only depend.
Yeah. I mean,
unless we're like a pure devotee, and it's revealed to us, right? How can we know what is Krishna's will?
That's the point. Somebody who wants Krishna's will is not attached to knowing Krishna's will.
Okay.
They don't know what's next. See, nowadays people want it's all about modern days, about confidence, show that you know all that, right? But actually pure devotees are always open and they're not attached. This only will happen. They don't predict, or they're not attached to it. They're like, it will be Krishna's will. Whether it's Ambarish Maharaj or whether it's Parikshit Maharaj, they are able to live according to Krishna's will because they're not using their self-will in ways of like, this is what will happen, that's what will happen. It's very dangerous. We can practice bhakti in tamoguna and rajoguna. We can say, I'm getting up every day and I'm doing this, and other people are not doing what I'm doing is Krishna's will. How can Krishna, somebody makes a mistake and we say, oh, that cannot be Krishna's will. And how do we know? So first of all, we need to have the right attitude to be able to align to Krishna's will. Otherwise, lifetimes and lifetimes we've acted in self-will. So the point I'm trying to make is understanding Krishna's will is not an intellectual exercise or some kind of a mathematical exercise or a dramatics of this is what Krishna wants. It's not that. It's internalizing the fact that, okay, I am servant of Krishna and I will act according to his will. Even just that alignment, it's very hard to find. Every devotee, small, big, always is thinking, like you say, I know what Krishna wants. I mean, it's natural to fall into that trap. So let's pray to the Lord like this. Okay, I pray this every morning. My dear Radha Madhava, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Remove my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. So this is a prayer. I wake up with that. I go to sleep with that. It's like, I don't know what is good for me, what's bad for me. How do you lead me? And then we are not living anymore in guilt and shame and passion and anger. We're just like, Krishna's will, Krishna's will. It's a practice. We're not going to get it right. Many days we're off. I mean, you remember that journaling thing, right? At the end of the day, I look and see, have I been resentful? Have I been fearful? Have I been selfish today? And what's the other one? Fear. Fear, selfishness, honesty. Have I been honest today? So if any of this is missing, then it's my will. If all the four are saying, no, I was not fearful today, I was not resentful today, I was not dishonest today, and I was not selfish today, of course it's Krishna's will. But any of those things present means there's no God's will, there's only our will. I can write it in the chat box. Fear. Okay, have you experienced fear, dishonesty, first is resentment, fear, dishonesty, selfishness. These are the indicators of these are the primary anarthas. Many other anarthas come under this category, but these are the areas. And if we can honestly say that, oh, my day has been free from these, then in every action, then yes, we have aligned 100%, and otherwise not like that.
Mataji, can you explain a little bit about the journaling, like how to do it, how to start?
Sorry, what?
Can you explain a little bit about the journaling, how to start it?
Not now, but we can have another session, or we can have a call or a meeting about this.
Yes, Mataji, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's pray to their Lordships, Sri Radha Krishna, to help us align to their will, to give us the strength to give up our self-will that has brought us in bondage for many, many lifetimes. And may Krishna help us to come closer to him, and by our experiences bring others also closer to the Lord. May Krishna's will and not mine be done.
Yeah, thank you.
We can have a journaling session. Today's Wednesday. Okay, I'll plan about this, and then we can have a journaling session.
Yes,
will you be able to make it at, say, 5 o'clock India time? Unless,
today,
I mean, no, not today. I'm just asking in general. Okay, I'll make a poll on the group and then see what people like. We can have a session. We have had it in the past, so we can have it again. Thank you very much for your attention. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.